I'm sorry if my voice cuts out. I've had a bit of a cold. Anyway, so I want to tell you guys a short story. Do we have anyone here who's got family in or is from Louisiana? Anyone? Chris. All right. The governor of Louisiana is this guy named Bobby Jindal. He's a Republican, conservative, great man. He was elected in 2007 in a four-way race with over 54% of the vote in a predominantly Democratic state. Now, he was elected through his own work, but also through the work of a group of young adults led by a friend of mine named Harrison Wood. Harrison organized a statewide student project where hundreds of teenagers came from all over the country, organized and spread out through the entire state, and hit thousands and thousands of homes, urging them to vote for Bobby Jindal. Now, this may seem a little daunting to you, because political involvement can be a daunting task. But when considering it, there are three main things you need to think about. You need to think about the historical involvement in our country. You need to think about the involvement that's trending upwards, how more and more adults are becoming, more and more young adults are becoming involved. And how can you get involved? Now, historically, young adult political activity is key. Now, this is Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton was the first Secretary of the Treasury of the United States. He was one of the founding fathers. And a lot of you may know this. What you may not know is when the Revolutionary War started, when he began his civic service, he was 18. This is James Madison. Same thing, a founding father. When he began his political service, he was 24. James Monroe, one of our first presidents. When he began his political service, he was 17 years old. The same age many of you and I are. And there was this trend upwards. There was this huge surge of political activity in young adults. And then, in the mid-20th century, it started trending downward. According to Aging, Voting, and Political Interest in 1968 by Norval D. Glenn and Michael Grimes, they wrote that those who are the youngest eligible to vote, those between the ages of 18 and 24, are the least likely to do so. Whereas those that are the oldest are the most likely to do so. So you have the new generation coming up, not being politically active, not being involved in their politics. Lately, though, in the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century, more and more young adults have been becoming politically involved. 2004, we had 42% of young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 voting, 58% not voting. That's a pretty good margin considering not that many people vote in our country, unfortunately. In 2008, it jumped up to 48.5% voting, 51.5% not voting. And then in 2010, only 21% of the nation voted between the ages of 18 and 24. So what happened in 2008? What happened? It was a presidential election, and then in 2010, 40% of the young adults that voted were conservative, 57% were liberal, and 3% were other. We need to get involved. So in 2008, what happened was Barack Obama attempted to reach younger voters. He starts out, he uses Twitter, he uses Facebook, he uses YouTube. He reaches out to those that are in the internet era. And what happens? He employs younger people. They start wanting to get involved in his campaign. They start wanting to help him win. And boom, he wins the election. Sound familiar to anyone else? I hated it. But it's key. Liberal political campaigns are employing young adults. Democratic and liberal campaigns are the ones that are trying to get young adults active. The majority of young adults are voting for Democratic and liberal candidates. Almost 60% of the nation is voting for liberal candidates in our ages. So what are you doing? How can you get politically involved? I mean, it sounds like a daunting task. I mean, politics are for old people that lie a lot, right? So, how to get involved? Volunteer for political campaigns. I mean, it's not that hard. They love you. Like, if you call up a political campaign and ask, what do you need done? First of all, they always have work done. They need you to get there and to get out and canvass and make phone calls and stuff envelopes. They love you because you present a fresh new face. When you've got a 65-year-old guy running, he's not really appealing to the 18 and 20-year-olds. But if you've got a 65-year-old guy running for office, and he has two 19-year-olds on either side of him supporting him, it makes a better impression. Make phone calls, call your friends. Encourage your friends to get involved. Vote. This is the vitally important thing. Vote. If you don't vote, someone else is going to. And it's not going to go the way you want it to. Run for office. I mean, this year, two friends of mine, Elise Hall and Joshua Cockcroft, won state representative seats in Oklahoma. They're now part of the Oklahoma State Legislature. They got involved at a young age. So, to wrap this up, I mean, you need to consider that there's historical involvement. There is a trend upwards of liberal youth getting involved. And you can get involved by voting. You can get involved by simply going in for a single day and working for 3 hours, calling your friends. Now, I want to just leave you with one little thing. If you're not going to do this, who is? Consider that.